In his book, Career Anchors, Dr. Schein helps individuals self-identify and negotiate self-management of careers. Dr. Schein was awarded the prestigious Hughes Award by the Careers Division for linking together two fields of inquiry, unbounded careers, and organizational learning and change. The purpose of this interview is to increase the impact of the Hughes Award. Again, Dr. Schein, thank you so much for volunteering your valuable time. I'd like to start by asking, how did you create your new construct and variable of career anchors?
Seeing was what we came to call the inner career, how people begin to develop a pattern of who they think they are and why they think they are pursuing the kind of work that they're pursuing. And the pattern holds. And some of these people actually said to me, I began to realize that my job was like an anchor for me. You know, I knew what I wanted to do and what I wanted to be. And as I did more of these interviews, these stories began to fall into a pattern. To me, these people had stories that hung together, and they were calling it anchors. And so I decided, hey, don't look a gift horse in the mouth, accept the gift that you've been given. You may have wanted to study corporate indoctrination, but instead you discovered some very important things about the adult career. And that fitted very well my sociological orientation. Occupations. The field of careers was the field of which occupation you're going to go into. And this idea of inner careers that were built around anchors that were things like entrepreneurship, security, autonomy, that was a very sociological concept that applied to adults rather than people just entering their career. So I had really created unwittingly an adult career concept.
Fascinating. What inspired you to create ideal types?
You found them in academia, or the engineer who said, I want the problem that nobody's ever been able to solve. And that group of people, a small group, but very, very adamant in their own views, became the challenge anchor. And then I said, now, anytime I get a new sample that sounds different, I'll find a new label for them. But we found that those 8 anchors pretty much covered all the new people that we were starting to see. Now, maybe after COVID, there will be a new anchor, staying at home or something. But the criterion is simple. If the story clearly doesn't fit any of the 8 anchors, and you get 2 or 3 stories like that, then you found a new anchor. But it's data-driven, it's story-driven. It's not inspirational or theoretical. And I think that's very important, and that's why the concept works, because it isn't a theory that somebody thought of. It's a description of career realities.
What form of career anchors best defines who you are?
Well, the people who went into being professors or consultants or so on are very clearly all obsessed with autonomy and freedom. The choices that I think all of us made is that what kind of occupation gives us the most freedom to do what we want to do. And autonomy and independence clearly fits a number of occupations. The lone researcher.
What are areas that are new and exciting based off your typology?
Well, the obvious one is, will this COVID year or two create new anchors, or how will people with different anchors deal with it? The autonomy people will be delighted to stay home and really appreciate that they now have a legitimate reason to stay home. And there will be more companies that will be able to use those people. And here's an example of a granddaughter who's a software engineer who works now for Apple, and she's part of a team who work on all sorts of stuff. She has a direct boss and a skip level boss. And the punchline of that is that she said, I've never met any of these in over a year. And she's quite comfortable working with two levels of bosses and her entire team entirely virtually. They don't have any plans to meet. They have somehow managed to create a working system. And maybe we will have to call out a new anchor at some point. You know, I'm looking at all aspects of organizational cultures and lives. But maybe the biggest impact will be that organizations will change more than individuals. You may not change, but the kinds of jobs that may be available to you in the next 10 years may be different because of COVID and companies reorganizing themselves, discovering that it's really cheaper and more efficient often not to have offices. My son had already experienced that 15 years ago. He was at Sun Microsystems when they closed most of their offices and sent people off and gave them a locker in one place. And if you needed a desk, you rented one. So it's a very interesting phenomenon that has a lot of linkages to the career anchor thing. And John Van Manen, my son, and I are thinking about a new edition of the booklet that will try to take into account all these massive changes in the last 2 years from the pandemic and from the problem of global warming, which is real and it's going to force a lot of people into new careers. Hopefully, we're going to need many more people in the environmental areas, but they'll again fit all the 8 anchors. There won't be just one anchor.
We'll just end with a fun question. How do you spend your free time?
Well, I started. I was so autonomy oriented. It never worked much with others until I discovered that working with my son 5-6 years ago was a very good deal because he and I wanted to write some books together. He had a social anthropology and a business background, so he came with a whole new set of eyes and ears and thoughts about all this. So I spend most of my time still working. Only the work now is working with my son on, we've written 4 books together, the whole Humble series, Humble Consulting, Humble Leadership, and so on. And so my days are very filled with working with him on what will we work on next. Well, you got me on a pretty good rant. Oh.
Very enjoyable to listen to. I just want to end with thanking you so much, Dr. Schein. I appreciate the skills that you've given us to be able to build your work and move science forward.